So I've decided to do these little vlogs after my sessions to kind of talk about the subject at hand, the things that I'm working on, and document the journey for whatever reason. So. The latest thing that I'm working on, or I've identified as an issue of mine, is trust, and it's a big one. It's a big one. I've opened my eyes to how big an issue it is. My inability to trust others at times, and even my inability to trust myself in a big way, and that I think that comes from being in relationships with people that hurt me, and my inner child not feeling safe with myself, I guess, to make the right decisions, to have not been put in those situations. I don't know, it's something I'm still working through, but this is a big one for those of us who are struggling from complex trauma that we grow up with, right? Or whatever may have happened to us. So, and it's huge. And I know that the inability to trust comes from a place of fear within me. And it's something that throughout my last relationship, I was constantly going back and forth with, where I remember, her doing something that I felt was a violation of trust, and blocking up myself off emotionally, and then we would come back together to try to mend things again, and then putting myself out there in a place where I felt like, all right, I'm gonna be open and forgive, and something else would come back up, and she would do something else, and it would go back up again. It was like this constant back and forth of like, it's funny. My last name's Mason, and I think I imagine myself building walls, building brick walls around my vulnerable insides to protect myself from people I can't trust, or from being hurt. So this process of recovery, of my healing journey, has forced me out of my comfort zone, and even doing things like this right now, in this moment, shooting this little video, is forcing me to get out of my comfort zone and be vulnerable, which I think is a big part of learning to trust, because it requires a certain amount of faith to be open and honest and share deeper things that are bothering us, right? So I think, and then listening to other people share what's going on with them in a group setting, I think has helped too. And I'll continue to work on it. And I know it. It leads to controlling. Lack of trust leads to controlling, and I've certainly done that. And she certainly did that on her side in our relationship, and I've done that with my kids and other people. And then the attempts to manipulate in order to I guess, circumvent trust or not have to deal with your fear. And I get it. I mean, I do firmly believe that what we fear we attract in a big way, and it's. But at the same time, I have this thing where I have to question, like, and I've learned this too, is that, you know, there's certain people that just don't have the character traits to be honest, or are just so full of fear, and that they can't find a place where they can be honest or be committed or be faithful. And I remember wishing that were the case in my partner, that there was something I could do to change that. And you know, and that made me beat myself up, because it took me back to those feelings of, you know, only if I was worthy enough, or there's a way I could earn that that somehow, which is just silly, right, and ridiculous. But yeah, trust is a big one, and I think it affects all of us and our relationships at one time or another. And I'm still working on trusting myself, right? And I think that's part of the journey of reconnecting and loving myself and strengthening myself to a point where you know, maybe I realize that I don't need anybody else in my life, right? I can be content and happy alone, and that's fine. And that's I guess that's part of the goal. You know, I know part of me doesn't want to be alone. I know that part of me doesn't want to be alone, but I think there's just something to be said about getting to a point where you're okay being alone, and you realize that you can be content being alone. I mean, but you know, my vision of my life was always to have a partner to share things with, to you know, to have another person's, I guess, constant perspective on stuff, to you know, learn about them and get to know someone else that deeply has always been part of my goals, I guess, or something I looked for. But so that's what we talked about tonight, was trust. And I don't know what else to say, but it's another part of this life, right? So, in God we trust, right? Maybe that's where it's at. Maybe that's the secret. I don't know. Well, good night.